Steve, I want to ask you, coming up in that Philly music scene, I mean, gosh, what an incredible fertile ground for music, especially, soul, R&B, funk, and jazz. Incredible. So what was it like being in that environment? I've only been to Philadelphia a few times, just usually for a short term, and I haven't really explored the music scene there. Tell the viewers what Philly is all about, especially from back in the 70s.
Well, one thing Philadelphia is known for is great bass players. I got to tell you, man, from Stanley Clark to Charles Fambro to Alphonso Johnson. There's just so many great bass players out of Philly, and it was Philadelphia International Records, created that sound of Philadelphia that really touched the world. Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, and I was fortunate. Actually, right after Breakwater, we finished our first album. We came home to wait for the record to be released. I was approached by this great drummer Pete Rudd and Herb Smith, and they asked me would I go out on the road to do a few gigs with Dexter Wansell, who's a producer and artist from Philly International. And so I did go. I went on the road with Dexter and those cats, and we had a ball, man. I learned so much from them, because as Greg mentioned, I come from like a jazz fusion background more so, and I try to play as many notes as I can. I was up and down the neck was where I was, but when I went out on the road with Pete and Herb, and started working with Dexter Wansell. Dexter, they really taught me how to pocket, where the pocket is. Pete Rudd is just like he's like Buddy Miles, like the funk drummer. His groove is so powerful. And it taught me how to relax in the pocket and respect the one. The most important thing, it's the most important lesson I ever learned, respect the one. Because the pocket is in the one, man, and I was so fortunate that happened at that time, because I was kind of struggling with some of the music of Breakwater in terms of, to play it in, the way that I had learned eventually how to play once I went on the road with these guys, So I actually Dexter was a producer at Philly International and a writer. Wrote some great songs and produced songs. And he started calling me for recording sessions. And, working with Dexter, man, we recorded on his album, we wrote a song together on Dexter's album, which was actually kind of a fusion rhythm and blues song. But then played on the Jones Girls. Nights Over Egypt, you know that song?
I know the group. I can't think of the song.
Yeah, yep. So I played on that one. I played, did sessions with Patti LaBelle, with Phyllis Hyman, with the Stylistics, and all of these different groups with Teddy. I just started recording. Then I eventually, after Breakwater, we kind of split. I don't know if I'm moving too fast, but I became a studio musician at Philly International, and that's how I made my living for a while until I went out on the road with Lou Rawls. But to get back to your original question about the Philly music scene, there are so many great musicians in Philly. It's unbelievable. It's like, you ever have a cheesesteak, man? Scott?
You ever have what?
A cheesesteak?
Oh, of course.
Okay, well, there's a groove like a cheesesteak in Philadelphia. You can only get it in Philly, man, and there's just some great cats here, man. And growing up, when we were coming up, when I first joined Breakwater, that was during the band era. Every neighborhood in Philadelphia had a band, or at least one band. And that neighborhood actually supported the band. The band would rehearse, and the folks from the neighborhood be hanging around outside listening to the band and come out and support the band. And so it was a great learning experience for so many musicians, because cats would just practice to practice. It wasn't about we're practicing because we have a gig. It was about we're practicing because we love this music. We're going to play 8 hours today and practice until we get this groove right, or till we get these vocals right. And we're just going to keep at it and keep at it. And, it really created an atmosphere and a school for musicians to really hone and learn their craft here in Philly. And I'm so glad that I'm part of that, and still am a part of it. It's a great place for music. Philadelphia, unfortunately, does eat its young. So, I mean, you stay in Philadelphia too long, you could kind of be sucked into the peripheral of things, But the few who get out to showcase are just that, but a few of many, because there are a lot of unsung musicians in Philadelphia that are just absolutely phenomenal. There was a guitar player who he passed a couple weeks ago, and he used to play in a band that Greg and I were in. His name was Jeff Lee Johnson. You ever
Oh
hear of him?
yeah, Jeff Lee. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
has a
mean,
tremendous talent.
tremendous. And that level of musicianship is something that you would find on Cats in Philly that nobody else is, nobody really knows. But there are musicians like that who are just, so unique and so phenomenal. Some make it and some don't. But to in this environment, it's a great, great, great learning experience.
So I want to get back to the Breakwater itself. So the group was formed in the early 70s, but you didn't get the Arista deal until 78 is when that came out. What took place that got the band a record deal? How did that come to be?
Well, I think I can shed a little light on that. We started making a demo tape with a couple of our early songs. And there was a friend of ours from Germantown, Mark. Help me here, Steve.
Burnett.
What's that?
Mark
Burnett, right? And he was everybody. I was a little older, but most of the guys were right around, out of high school, kind of college age. Mark was a great friend of the band, and just had a great kind of personality that would make a great salesman. So he went to college on the West Coast, and he kept bugging me. He said, "Greg, send me some cassettes," right? Which cassette era, right? Of what we were doing, and we had contacted a couple of different people. Somebody I knew around town who had been involved with Good God, and they had actually shown it to Arista, and Arista had passed on it, and then Mark did it the hard way. He went to every A&R office in LA and just started saying, "Hey, you got to hear this great band from Philly, blase, blase." And he finally got Quincy Jones' manager, I forget his name, but interested in the band.
Well, what happened was he actually, the first person he gave the tape to was Ray Charles' son.
I didn't know that.
And Ray Charles gave our demo to Billy Eckstine's son, Ed Eckstein. And Ed Eckstein was Quincy's. He ran Quincy's production company.
Okay.
Quest, is that what it's called?
Yeah. So that's how Quincy got to us, through Ray Charles' son, through Ed Eckstein, and then Quincy. And then Quincy was really interested in the band. we had sent the brothers Johnson. They came to town, and we were ready to move. We were all ready to move to California. I was excited about that. I think we were all excited about that. But once it got out in the industry that Quincy was interested in the band, that's when we started getting all of these offers from other companies who actually had, some of them had actually passed us before, like Arista, like Greg said.
Right.
And we kind of did, and also, so that was Clive Davis. Clive Davis signed us. So we wound up going with Arista, signing with Clive Davis.
Actually, one of the issues, to be honest, was for some guys, for me, I didn't care, Steve didn't care. We would have been happy to go to the West Coast, but there's some guys with families and responsibilities. We're relocating to the West Coast, and that was part of the Quincy deal. Was we would have had to go on to LA, and guys with families and kids, it would have been a big thing. And then Clive gave us our choice of producers, and we could stay here, which it was somewhat honestly practical. I mean, we all would have loved to work with Quincy. I knew Quincy's work from, like I said, back in the, when he was writing big band charts for Basie and Ray Charles. And I had all the respect for him in the world. It just sounded exciting. As a matter of fact, Quincy made a group call to the band at one point at our rehearsal place. And Quincy said, who did the horn charts? And I went, oh, I did, right? And Quincy goes, nice. And I went, wow, Quincy Jones, like my horn charts. Ooh, too cool. But by the way, I just want to throw one thing into when you're talking about bands and Philly bands, is they were, before I forget, there was a bunch of Philly bands, when we were coming up. And they used to have battles of the bands all the time in Philly.
Yeah.
And it was like a big deal. I mean, like people would come out, 3-4 bands, and some of those other bands, Sundown was one, and some musicians in that was like the Eubanks. Robin Eubanks was in that, the brother of Jay Leno's guitar.
Yeah, Kevin was also in Sundown.
Was he in Sundown too? And
yep.
Who else was in? It was, I mean, there was
Billy Johnson went on to play with
Sundown. It was a great band, and those battles of the bands were a thing. So the thing is that about Breakwater, that one of the reasons I think that people have so much affection for Breakwater, and I see this all the time when we go to a gig now, is that of all those local bands, Breakwater was the one that's kind of still around. That we stuck it through. We wrote our own music. We got the deals. We got the deal. We did through a couple of albums. There's a certain amount of, those are my guys. Those are my boys. I love those guys, right? Because we came from Germantown High School, and there were people who knew us. Well, not me, but who knew the band in Germantown High School. And it really has a nice, there's a really nice community connection, because there's a direct line from that band in high school to the band that's still playing now. And I don't think, as good as the stuff that came out of Philly Sound, out of Philly International was, it didn't have that neighborhood band thing to it that people really loved about us. When we first got back together, we did our very first gig was in Vernon Park, which is in Germantown, which is like from where, like right across the street from the old Germantown High School. And we came back, we played our set, sounded good, everybody went great. And I'm walking out of the park, and a guy says, man, when you guys broke up, we were really mad at you. And I'm like, damn, that's really interesting. It's like they felt, as a neighborhood, personally invested in Breakwater. And that's a very cool thing. I love that. That's great. So I just wanted to toss that in. This is like, so Breakwater was a neighborhood band and still has a bunch of the original people from Germantown High School. And it's just something cool about that.
That is very cool. You know, I definitely want to get deeper into these two records that you guys did do. The fans are definitely going to want to talk more about these. So the first record in 1978 is called Breakwater. Had a few singles off it. How did you feel about how that record turned out versus what you had envisioned for it? And did you hope for maybe more national exposure than you got? Or how did you feel about, you know, how things worked out with that first record? Let's go with, we just heard from Greg. Let's go with Steve first.
Overall, we were excited. You know, hey, it was our first album, and we got a chance to record it, and opened up a bunch of doors, kind of changed our lives. You know, in terms of you know, our popularity. I think we might have been a little discouraged that the sound of the band live didn't. It was. How can I say? I mean, and this happens in studios, you know, particularly when you work with producers and they start producing. The sound of the band live, I think, was not fully captured, but what was captured was great. It's good music. It's good music. Hey, Greg wrote this song called "You Know I Love You." It's a ballad. It's still one of my favorite songs. You know, I love that song. I think it was one of the best songs on that album. Work It Out, Do It Till the Floor Gets Hot on that album. What a great songs. There was a couple songs that Clive Davis had suggested that we record from other writers, and you know, so we did. We never played those songs live, but we recorded them.
Well, No Limit was one of the suggestions, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, No Limit. That's exactly. That was a song.
Yeah.
Clive Davis.
There's another one we have never played live.
Right. That's not what we came here for. It's called, yeah. But yeah, it was great, man. You know, you hear your music on the radio. I remember the first time I heard Breakwater on the radio. I was actually in Pittsburgh. I was doing a gig with Dexter, and the record came out, and I was like in a hotel room, like in a party after the gig, and somebody had the radio on, and they played "Work It Out," and I was like, "That's Breakwater!" You know. So I mean, that's exciting. You know, when you do your first record.
Just a footnote on "Work It Out." We went to England in UK in January of 2017, and "Work It Out" was one of the songs that we were required to play.
Yeah, there.
You know, people love that song over there. It was just like, you know, which was wild after 35 years. I mean, like,
yeah.
They had a hit on that song after the band broke up in the UK in about 86 or 87. We didn't even know about it because we were already broken up. And so that's a whole interesting story in itself, because there was this whole audience. There's an audience for us over there that we did not know existed. It's interesting and kind of cool. Actually, very cool. But you know, you go somewhere after 35 years, and there's like 500 or 600 people there just waiting to see you. So that was wild.
But you recorded this record in New York, is that correct?
Yeah, and Philly.
And Philly. So yeah. How would you guys describe the chemistry of the group as you were, you know, recording?
Well, it was a new process for us, and not what we were used to. And I think a lot slower than we thought it would be. Somewhat a function of how producer worked, and it was a serious learning process in terms of you know, of adapting to that. And I mean, you know, the result speaks for itself, but the process was, I think, took a lot longer than we thought it would. And we weren't used to that. Let me just leave it at that. So it was
the first time for a lot of us being in the studio.
Yeah.
You know,
except for the demo.
Yeah. So, you know, it was a learning experience as well. Yeah. Yeah. But in terms, yeah. And your second question in terms of the popularity of the first album, or both of our albums, really. Yeah. We had hoped that it would do more than it did. You know, it made some noise, and we did some touring. We toured with Gino Vanelli, did a few gigs with him, but we didn't have a long extended tour for that album. You know, we had hoped that it would do more, but it was doing more than we had before, so it was still an exciting time for us.
Well, do you know how I discovered the group was, you know, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and not a lot of airplay for Breakwater in Los Angeles, but I was one of those guys that was constantly in the record stores, always going through the bins, and so I discovered you guys that way, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. How did you guys come up with like the concept, you know, with the picture with the water and the girl, and was that handled exterior to the group, or
that was pretty much Arista. That came from their art department, and
you know, that what's his name, Gary Gross, the photographer. He's well known for Brooke Shields' photos when she was a little girl. You know, those kind of racy photos. Yeah, he actually shot both Breakwater albums. Gary Gross. He's great photographer. It was a lot of fun doing that. In fact, that album cover, just like really, you know, our promo T-shirts now are that album cover, because those sexy lips with that water coming through, people really remember that. And I can't remember who the model was, but she was fine.
We never met her. I didn't anyway.
She was thirsty.
She was thirsty, man.
Thirsty for the funk and R&B, Breakwater.
So the back is also, that's a great picture on the back of that album. That was yeah, we were all standing there in the studio, and they had to put me in the back because I reflect a different amount of light than everybody else. And so I had my own special lighting so that we all kind of looked about the same, which is just real. It's fine, you know. But it's a great picture. Somebody told a joke and we're all like, you know, like cracking up, and that's the one they kept, which was a great picture. That pretty much that was Breakwater, pretty much about right. I had heard a rumor that Prince had a copy of that picture on his wall. I don't know if that's true, but
well, no, that's the truth. When the first time that I saw Prince, went to a concert. He was here at Emerald City, and I was backstage after the show, and he came up to me and he said, "You know, you look familiar." And I said, "You know, someone had introduced us, you know." And I said, "You know, I never, you know, I've never met you. You know, I love your music, never met you." He said, "You really look familiar." And then he said, "You know, you're in a band, right?" He says, "I think my girlfriend has a picture, your band's poster, on her wall." I was like, "Wow, really?" Yeah.
Wow. Well, 78, I think that was the year he had his debut, so it is right around that era.
Yeah, no. We, you know, I was always a big Prince fan. I always thought, you know, the albums that couldn't be played on the air were really great musically.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I had no problems with the lyrics, but a lot of people did. But
Yeah.
but there, yeah. So that was all. That was right out of that. We were actually. I first heard that record. We were doing a gig with Breakwater in upstate New York, someplace. Where was that, Steve?
Oh, was that Barnard?
Where was it?
What's the school at Steely Dan that
Oh, yeah,
Donald
right.
Bayard? But
Never going back to Avondale.
yeah,
Bard.
Bard College, yes.
Bard College. Breakwater.
Right.
Breakwater played at Bard College, and we were in a hotel room somewhere, and the Prince came on. That's the first time I heard. I thought what was the one song of that record they could play?
Which record are you talking? The
one with, was it Dirty Mind?
Dirty Mind? Yeah. Well,
no, that was before Dirty Mind. I think it was like the first one, Soft and Wet, that album and all.
Well, that was the first one, Soft and Wet. Then the second one was with Sexy Dancer and I Want to Be Your Lover.
Yeah.
And then the third one was Dirty Mind with Head and all that kind of stuff on it.
Right.
Right. I mean, and that's the one that they couldn't play half of it on the radio.
Yeah.
But it was all good if you just listen to it. But I just, yeah.
I want to talk about some of the specific songs on this record, that first one, because, being the funketeer that I am, I especially really love Feel Your Way. Just a great funky, mostly instrumental. I love the synthesizer parts in it, the guitar parts, the horns, electric piano. Really cool track. You have any memories about creating that one specifically?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
In fact, I was listening to the demo from that not long ago, the original demo, and it was.
You have that demo?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, really, I'd love to hear it.
A couple songs, but yeah, that actually was it had vocals. It had verse and then the hook. When we recorded it on the album, it only has the hook. But there's a verse to it, and actually, when we perform it now, we sing the verse. So it's really killing. But probably we may even re-release it with the
we actually re-record. I always liked the verses. I thought the verses were great. I wasn't sure why the producer took them out. I didn't agree with that choice, but they are. Let's see. Do you want to hear what they are? I mean, it's like there's a place where we all get together. Love, peace, happiness. No, come on. What am I missing? What am I? I'm doing this in the wrong.
Free as a breeze. Fresh air.
Fresh air. People everywhere doing their thing together. In our world of music.
That's it.
Perfect choice for your mind, right?
Perfect for your mind, yeah.
Every time we basically start out the set with that song. And it's just a perfect song for like starting a set with Breakwater. Feel your way into our world of music. And I love the verses. The song's better with the verses, quite frankly. But that's, you get producers' choices. They make those things. I'm not sure what the idea was there, but I always like the verses. And we have re-recorded the rhythm track. And it's a great track. We may just put it out with the verses.
Go for it. Do it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great track.
Yeah, the breezy sort of jazzy funk flow of it, to me, reminded me a little bit of like a Blackbyrds kind of thing, Blackbyrds also with a big jazz foundation. I don't know how you feel about that, but
the Blackbyrds, we kind of cut from the same cloth from that same time, Donald Byrd and those cats, man. Musicians that are musical, that are playing rhythm and blues, attempting to play rhythm and blues. You know what? But Scott, we can't talk about Breakwater anymore without mentioning Kay Williams Jr., our keyboard. I mean, Kay was he was the fire in the band. He was the main writer in the band. He was probably one of the hardest working cats I ever met. Always just like working, 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 working. And the keyboards and the songs that he came up with, just phenomenal. A real powerhouse and a real pushing force in Breakwater, to make things happen. Kay unfortunately passed, I guess about maybe 8 years ago, Greg.
It was
And
2008,
actually, that was
2009.
was it 9 years ago?
Yeah,
And we
basically.
all got together at Kay's funeral after the band being separated, broken up for like 30 years. Cats, everybody's doing different stuff. We got together at Kay's funeral and said, let's get together for like a cookout or something. And that turned into a jam session, which turned into a rehearsal, which turned into a reunion concert, which turned into, hey, the band's back. Let's get the band back together, man. Hey, Blues Brothers, the band. So, yeah, but
So
God bless Kate.
Side on that, on that, let's get together and jam. It was like we were in Jimmy Jones' basement and Steve and Jimmy Jones started to play, and I went, oh, this is going to work. It was like, oh, it's still there. Ain't no question, it's still there.
And that was what year?
What's that?
What year was that?
That's 2009. Yeah.
How long had it been since you had played together?
Well, we broke up about what, late 81, early 82, something like that.
Late 81, so, yep. Yeah.
That's, you do the math. 29 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Now, let me give you one. You asked about Feel Your Way, and I remember, like we had kind of made the commitment to be an original band. We're going to do this. We're going to do it. We're still playing all our gigs. We're playing our cabarets. We're playing our clubs. And the thing is, one of the things when you become an original, when you're a cover band, you're sort of like piggybacking on the identity of the music that you're playing. So people know you as a great band, but the songs they know are really songs that are on the radio, or in the case of Breakwater, sometimes not. But so when you're starting to do this, you make the commitment to it is what songs are going to express Breakwater identity. And it's kind of, you know it when you feel it. You know it when you hear it. And I remember we were in the rehearsal down in the basement on North 18th Street, and Kay brought Feel Your Way in, and I went, oh yeah, this is a Breakwater song. It's just like that feels like us, right? That feels like what our identity is, right? It just felt right. I said, okay, step one, good song. This is us. We got this, right? We're going to do this. So, yeah. It was one of the songs on the original demo too.
Interesting. Also on that record, "Free Yourself," the last track, I felt like a Sly Stone kind of Graham Central Station kind of vibe on that. Really slower and funky. In some ways, I think that song and "Feel Your Way" really gave insight into the direction that the second record would go, which was funkier than the first record. How do you guys feel about that assessment?
Well, "Free Yourself" is who wrote that, Steve?
Kay wrote that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's we don't play that now. It just hasn't been one of the ones, sort of like you find out what songs you're going to play by what songs you play, right? Nowadays, right? It hasn't been one of the ones that has really stuck with us. Feel Your Way, absolutely, totally. We still play Unnecessary Business. We look forward to it. Steve has a bass feature in it, which always kills. We still play from the first album, We still play "You Know I Love You" every time we play. We still play "Work It Out." We still play "No Limit," but we actually don't play "Free Yourself" much live anymore. I don't know. It just kind of didn't resonate the way some of the others did. I can't explain it really. You know, I like the song. I just didn't. It just didn't stick. I don't know how to.
It didn't stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of.
Well, it definitely doesn't have quite the jazzy side of it that a lot of your work does. More of a really slowed down kind of groove track.
Yeah.
Also, from that album is "Do It Till the Fluid Gets Hot."
Oh yeah, that's always one of our last songs.
Yeah, because that they love that one. That's
yeah, I love the way the synth drives that beat of that groove.
Yeah, kills it, man.
Yeah.